Welcome back. This video is part 2 of 2 explaining how to create a new purchase agreement. Okay, continuing with part 2, let's create a new invoice. To do that, I'm going to click on the product ID field and I'm going to click the letter P on the keyboard, which will go to the first Phonak products or whatever letter I choose, and then I'll select this product here. Doing so will pull in the quantity, the actual quantity because it's a binaural is 2, the description for the invoice, a modifier if you've set it up to do that, the price for the binaural, each binaural in this case, so obviously that's 2 units, so 6, 7, 8, 9 is what it costs for the binaural. I can apply a discount by clicking that button there or manually typing in a minus and an amount there. I can put in an adjustment date if necessary or desired and put in the discount. I can add additional adjustments here. I can add those later if there's a write-off from an insurance company from an EOB, for example, or I can even do a third write-off if necessary, but let's not do that now. So my total extended price is essentially the quantity times the price and includes any adjustments. If the tax was set up in the products and services list, it would have pulled that in automatically, but I can add it manually. The date of service is already there, but I can actually, for example, if this was a different date, I can then click same date and pull that date in there without having to type it. I'm going to skip some of these now and we'll continue with additional items for this invoice, but rather than doing them one at a time, which I certainly can do, for example, let's say I want a wax brush on there, I can use my templates, which will be covered in another video, but by clicking this templates button I can just click insert if this is the desired template I want to use, or I can select from a number of different templates. Let's just go ahead and choose that one there, and by default then it's going to pull in all of those different items that I put in my template, saving a fair amount of time. Of course I can make adjustments after I've added all those, but I'm going to leave them the way they are now. So I see my total, I see my taxes, the amount paid so far is empty, so I'm going to add a payment. I could manually click into the field and enter an amount like $3,000 if there's going to be a deposit, or I can click insert balance, which will put the full amount, half, 1/3, 1/4, or again any desired amount. I'll just click 1/3 as a deposit. The patient will pay with a credit card. You can process a credit card with HearForm's credit card company or use your own, and then you can choose, for example, something right here. If you use our credit card processing company, then a lot of this process is automated, but you may be very happy with your processor, and that's just fine. So I can also add additional payments. Let's say the patient is going to pay a little bit with a credit card, a little bit with a check. I can put in any amount here for additional amounts. Really an unlimited number of payments can be added to that. I made a mistake there, excuse me. I should have put it on this line. It pops to the top, and I can put in that payment was a personal check or something like that. So the check number I'll put in right there, and I could again put in additional information like a payment payer type, not mandatory, and some other items there, including the location, which pulls in by default, but you may want to put that separately. So once again, I could put the same date there. I could duplicate a payment to save a little bit of time, or I could delete a payment. I can also look at additional information about who made the payment, when it was modified, perhaps when it was created. And you may have seen this button here where we can also show information about those charges. So we're pretty much ready to print out a purchase agreement, but we have some choices down here at the bottom. Before I do, I want to add some notes, so I can put information here. For example, this is a note, and that will appear then on the printed agreement. If it's the delivery receipt, you'd use this field here below, which is slightly different than the other agreements, such as the purchase agreement or the service agreement. You can also put in in-house notes, and if you put any kind of notes here or in the personal patient notes, which is similar but just a different area to put additional notes, then you'll notice that the color of the button changes to a dark green. That lets you know that there is some note behind the scenes that you may want to pay attention to. In the same way, the insurance notes area, I'm just going to put the word note here. If I put something there, when I close this, you'll see it's turned to a darker red, and that indicates to a biller that maybe they need to pay attention, there's some special note. That button is also right here so that in the CMS 1500 area, the biller can click that and see any kinds of notes that you may have written that are important as part of that billing process. So we'll go back to the sales screen here, and we can look at the view devices and we can assign a stock, loaner, or demo. That's covered under a separate video, but you can do that right from here. We can put information for the supplier invoice. This is not used very often, but if you want to record something from the supplier invoice or statement, you can put that information here. It's not integrated with the rest of our system, but we've created a small place to be able to put that information right there. We're going to look at signatures and some other areas in a moment, but let's look at this View Devices area. Right now there are no devices on Jennifer's home screen. I've removed those for our purposes here. And so this is just blank, and yes, I could manually start entering information here, but I want to show you something that's available. Down here on this line, you have to choose the correct line for which charge you want to send. But we have a little send button, and in this area, if it's a pack of batteries, it can send that to the battery club, but if it's a hearing instrument, we'll click that button, and notice that it enters a little bit of information, the Phonak CIC, Audio, and the size of the battery. We just then have to put in the serial number, perhaps the side, perhaps a date that it was purchased, and fit, etc. And once you've entered that information here, maybe a warranty date, a loss and damage date, but then I can copy that down below and then simply change some information, perhaps a serial number. So I'll close that now, and you'll see that that information then will carry forward to the home screen and certainly the purchase agreement. So I've entered that information there, and let's look at some of our choices below in our quick click area here. I can print this as an accessory agreement. I don't want to do that because I have hearing instruments on it, but an accessory is a very basic receipt, whereas a sales agreement is designed to put additional information such as state legal requirements. So, for example, in New York, New Jersey, Florida, California, there's a lot of legal verbiage that has to be on a printed agreement, and we want to provide for room for that text. So the sales agreement is going to have more verbiage on it, the service agreement not so much. Please take a look at some of these, and you can preview each of them by clicking this little button right here, and it gives you an idea then of how that's going to look. If you live in a state that requires a lot of legal verbiage, then please contact our support desk and we'll help you get that information on there. For example, in the sales agreement, we see in the bottom third of the agreement some text that's automatically merged. Now, if you have a state that requires additional information, we may have to go with 2 pages, but for the most part, this is how that agreement will print. You'll notice the instruments that we're pulling in from the bottom area where the hearing instruments or devices are stored. We also see the 5 or 6 charge lines there. We see the total payments and the balance due and that sort of thing. And at the bottom of the agreement, the clinician's signature can automatically appear along with his or her image. The patient's image can appear if you've taken a picture of them, and they can even sign on the agreement. I'll show you that in just a moment, and that will display properly when an invoice is printed or emailed to them. So we have some options here. You just saw me preview right there, but I can also sign on that agreement using an iPad or an iPhone. Let's click on that and see. Now you may not see my whole screen here, but basically we can put on here, for example, clicking the shopping cart will show the patient what it is that they're purchasing and what they're signing, but they also will sign and see the legal text that's required there. When they click on the iPad with either their fingertip or an Apple Pencil, then it will actually pop up a separate larger screen allowing them to sign that, and that signature will be saved. They can also click here to sign, or they can clear that if they don't want to have their signature on there for some reason. So each of these agreements, or the vast majority of them, have the ability to sign, and if you see that little pencil pen icon there, then that's what that is there. We can also email the agreement by clicking this. It's warning us that private health information has not been approved, and you can review that if desired and make sure that the patient has approved that, for example. But let's do that again. I'm going to click here. And what it will do is automatically pull up an email, in this case on my other screen, but I'll pull it over here. And in this case, I have my support email there, but it would have the patient's email address there. The subject line, we have it automatically putting some additional information on there that you can either hide or show. And the document that is printed, again, you won't see the whole document here, but as you can see, that document prints real nice as a PDF, and it goes right to the patient, making it very easy for you to get that document to them just by emailing it. So that's another option. I'm going to click continue, and it does record behind the scenes the fact that the document was sent to them and what email address it was sent. We can also just click a button and turn that document into a PDF on the desktop. We can archive it to the patient's folder by clicking that button. You don't have to print it, scan it, and put it in the folder. It does it all with one click. And we can finally go to the document in case we need to modify it for some reason or edit that. I'll click the Go Back button right there. I can, in most cases, I'll want to print, so I can print one copy by clicking the larger of the two buttons or the number 2, and that will print that there. I can also print a waiver if necessary or do some other things like that. So we'll come back in other videos showing how you can create repair agreements and mark things for repair. In this particular case, if you did want to hide one or more of the devices, then we can do that. And I'll just click this button here and show, for example, if I wanted to hide that right hearing aid, let's say you had some older hearing aids on there and you didn't want those to show in the agreement, you can certainly click the hide button. And then when you preview it, you'll see that only one of the devices shows in the top area. So that's just something to keep in mind. Lots more to look at in this area, and we'll cover that in subsequent videos. But thanks for watching so far.